I'd watched season 1 on Chiller last year. It was a show that I enjoyed. I felt like it kind of lost steam towards its last couple episodes, but it showed a lot of promise in the first few, and then it just kind of started to dwindle from there, mostly because it started to get a little melodramatic and a little ridiculous. But when I literally just found out that they were even making a second season like 2 weeks ago. And the fact that it was going to be on Netflix, I only found out like a week ago. So it was just like, and that's why I love Netflix so much, because you can find out about something exciting and then they're like, here you go, all of it the next day. And of course you get the whole season at once. You don't even get like, where mostly, even if you did hear about it like this on another channel, you'd be getting an episode every week for 10 weeks or so. But not only did I find out that this was being released on Netflix in a week, but that I was getting, every episode of this season. So it was exciting. And another reason that was exciting as well is because, this is Netflix. This isn't Chiller. So Chiller, one of the problems I had with the Chiller season was that it was a little more tame, that they couldn't cuss, and the gore was obviously not going to be able to be all that great, and it wasn't, and you felt it. Especially on a show called Slasher, you want that. So I went into this like, oh, is this gonna have gore, and is this gonna have cussing, and is this gonna have, make it feel like an R-rated thing, what we want as horror fans? And absolutely yes, it does. So I'm gonna talk spoilers here in a minute. I'm gonna start breaking down every episode. I'm gonna watch all of them as soon as I can. So I'm gonna talk about episode 1. But if you're just here to, see if you want to check out the show. I've only watched 1 episode so far, but I thought this first episode was pretty much great. Like, it was really, really good. It had much better writing than season 1. The acting was better. The gore, we don't get a ton of kills, but the couple kills that we do get are fucking awesome. Especially one of them. I was watching this at work. That's why I'm all dressed up at the moment. I guess it doesn't look like I'm all dressed up, but a little different than usual. I was watching this at work, and I actually had to take my computer and spin it away because I was like, oh shit, this is graphic. And I was happy, and I sure didn't want anyone at work seeing me smiling and being happy by someone being brutally murdered. That doesn't go over so well with non-horror fans. So if you're just looking to, should I check this new season out? Is it better than the first? Or even if you haven't heard of the first, I don't dislike the first season. I think it's okay. I think it would be a decent watch for people who are super into horror. But so far, first episode is showing. And I've talked to a few people in my horror group that have seen the whole thing, and both of them loved it. So I have high hopes for the rest of these episodes, especially if this first episode is anything to go off of. So let's get into this episode. It took me 4 fucking minutes to get into it, but let's get into it. I didn't like the slow motion opening. It just felt cheesy, and it set a wrong tone for the opening. I get that they're trying to be friends and that it's cool, and I just didn't like it. I'm not a big fan of unnecessary slow-mo. Slow-mo doesn't bother me if it's used well, but I think that this just was out of place. Personally, not terrible, just, first thing. So it kind of just set me ugh, is this, come on, Netflix. But it obviously, as I said, paid off. I think one of the best things about this episode so far is that it's very much set up a lot of questions I want answered. I definitely want to know what happened to make them want to, end up killing this girl. They obviously, a prank went wrong. They wanted to scare the shit out of her because she did something wrong. I'm guessing she, fucked the one dude who's dating that girl, Andy. And she probably did other things, and we're obviously going to find that out as the season goes on. But, I mean, and I want to know what went wrong as well. Like, how did she end up basically looking like she was dead? Obviously, they're dragging her out there, and you're like, okay, so they think she's dead. I don't know how people didn't think to look for a pulse and couldn't find one, but it is what it is. Another thing that kind of threw me off in the beginning here is that Leslie Hopes shows up, and I'm a really big fan of 24. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, and if anyone's a big fan of that show, Leslie Hope is in the first season as Jack Bauer's wife, and she's awful. She is like, I don't even like watching the first season, and when I tell people to check out that show, I'm like, you could skip the first season, and a lot of that has to do with Leslie Hope. I hate her in that show. I don't despise her as an actress, but anytime I say it, she just has such, like, her presence is tainted to me because of that awful, awful character they created. The amnesia, so bad. But even here, she is kind of acting like Terry Bauer, and it's like, oh, God, go away. No, don't mess another one of my shows up. I like this yoga retreat that they go to because not only are the people already inherently weird by how they're acting, but also because it adds to the suspect list, which is a positive there. Like, the suspect list in this show is high so far. Like, I genuinely, there's a lot of people that it looks like they're foreshadowing that they could be the killer, and that's awesome. I want to be like, who's it gonna be? I love whodunit type stuff like this, and all the best slasher movies back in the day, not every single one of them, but a lot of the really great slasher movies was always a whodunit, and then of course, if they're not the killer, they're just more body count, which in a show like this, it's called slasher, and I'm a fucking gore whore myself, so pack on the bodies. Them having a ton more people is great for me. Like, all right, more meat for the fire. Man, that chainsaw kill was gnarly. That was awesome. There is some CGI enhancements, obviously, to that kill, and Andy's throat slit on both sides. There's a little bit, but it looked great. I think it was a blend of practical and CGI, and I think that if you absolutely have to use CGI, which I think in some cases you do, with certain kills, that's the way to do it. Do it mostly practical, and then do CGI enhancements over it. So yeah, that chainsaw kill, that was the one I had to turn away. I was like, that was fucking awesome looking. I could see little bits of like CGI, little like milliseconds where I was like, ugh, like my brain just like, nee. But most of it was like, yes. And then, as I said, Andy's throat slit looked gnarly as shit too. And that's another. I mean, this movie obviously has like an "I Know What You Did Last Summer" feel to it. I was not expecting Andy to die, not at all. I thought she would be like, I don't know, even when she was tied up, I'm like, no, she'd be all right. And then when like he got the knife, I was like, or he or she got the knife out, I was like, oh shit, like Andy's gonna die. Which, on one hand, was really cool because it was unexpected. I mean, I was all about it because of that. But on the other hand, it was kind of a bummer because she was the hottest chick in the show. And it was like, you already killed her? Oh, man. But, yeah, so and then when they're talking about what had happened in the past, I'm going to have to pay a little closer attention to this next episode because I think it'll be really apparent. But they referenced that somebody else was already dead that was a party to this. Now, I think they said it happened either that night or it's happened since then. So I don't know if like they'll lean more into that being the killer, like the person who also died. Maybe they're not dead and that they're doing this, or I don't know. But it was like really quick, and I was like, wait, what? Who? Who else was dead? Who else is there? So yeah, that's how I feel about the first episode. I'm absolutely stoked to check out the second episode, and I will report back when I do.